300 pounds of muscle and armor, moving at nearly 20 miles per hour. That is a terrifying amount of kinetic energy. And the only thing standing between that incoming force and the unprotected coaching staff on an NFL sideline is a single 2-inch painted white line on the turf. We watch this game every single Sunday, and we're totally conditioned to believe that the field of play is the danger zone, right? That's where the collisions happen. That's where the medical staff keeps their eyes glued. We expect the physical toll inside those boundaries. But the physics of a football game don't magically stop just because a player's cleat touches the out-of-bounds marker. Today, we're diving into a freak, terrifying occurrence that completely shatters the illusion of safety on the sideline. This isn't a story about a linebacker taking a blindside hit. This is about a brilliant football orchestrator getting caught in the violent crossfire of his own game. It really forces you to reframe how you view the entire setup of a football game. The sideline is meant to be the sanctuary. It's the war room. It's where the clipboards are held, the tablets are reviewed, and the headsets are buzzing with all those critical, split-second strategic adjustments. Think about the crazy visual contrast you see on every single NFL sideline. On one hand, you have these highly trained elite gladiators covered from head to toe in carbon fiber, high-density foam, and polycarbonate helmets. And literally standing mere inches away from them are the coaches, guys wearing khakis, polo shirts, and running shoes. They stand totally exposed, basically operating under this massive, unspoken assumption that the chaotic inertia of the game will somehow perfectly halt right at the boundary line. But physics simply doesn't care about the rules of football. When that assumed immunity vanishes, the calculated world of coaching is replaced by a sudden, violent reality in a fraction of a second. And what makes this specific incident so chilling is the environment it happened in. Set the scene in your mind. It's a Thursday night in Foxborough, late August. The Indianapolis Colts and the New England Patriots are locked in a 13-13 tie. It's the final waning seconds of a preseason exhibition game. Let's be real, in the grand scheme of the NFL standings, this game means absolutely nothing. There's no overtime to be played here. The starters, they've been resting on the bench for hours, wearing baseball caps, joking around, just waiting for the clock to hit 0. The stadium is quiet, collectively exhaling. The entire objective for both head coaches, every single player on the field, and every front office executive watching from up in the luxury boxes is exactly the same. Let the clock bleed out, get to the locker room, and escape the night without any catastrophic injuries. It's a mundane, low-stakes atmosphere. It lulled absolutely everyone in the building into a false sense of security. Section 1, the sideline collision. But that false sense of security evaporated in the blink of an eye, turning a totally routine ending into absolute chaos. Because football, even in a meaningless August game, is still a game of immense, uncontrollable force. Let's break down the timeline of how this happened. 4 seconds left on the clock. Colts quarterback Riley Leonard drops back. Indianapolis decides to take one final shot at a walk-off victory. So Leonard winds up and launches a Hail Mary pass deep down the field. The pass ultimately falls incomplete. But here's the thing, the play isn't over just because the ball hits the turf. Guys are still fighting, 2 seconds remaining. Out on the perimeter, completely away from where the ball was thrown, a Colts player and a Patriots player are fiercely engaged in a block. Remember, these are fringe roster guys fighting for their professional lives, trying to get something good on tape. They are locked in, legs driving, momentum building. 0 seconds on the clock. The game is officially over. But their momentum is carrying them sideways, fast. The block aggressively spills out of bounds. And standing right in their path, focused on the play, is Colts special teams coordinator Brian Mason. He sees them coming, he tries to bail out, but human reaction time just isn't fast enough. You can't outmaneuver 2 entangled, colliding athletes hurling into your personal space. He gets completely rolled up on by the sheer, crushing weight of 2 fully equipped football players. The immediate aftermath on the field was incredibly visceral. You could tell right away this wasn't just a glancing blow or a coach getting knocked off balance. It was a direct, concussive hit to the lower leg of a man wearing 0 protective armor. Mason went down, and he went down hard. Long after the play was over, long after the whistle blew, he was writhing in severe pain on the turf. And think about the shockwave that sends through a sideline. Players are used to seeing each other go down. It's an unfortunate part of the job. But seeing a coach laid out in agony, that is deeply jarring. 1 second, guys are preparing to unbuckle their chin straps and shake hands at midfield. The next, the medical staff is frantically sprinting over to attend to a devastated coordinator who literally can't get up. The stadium fell into this eerie, uncomfortable silence. After several incredibly tense moments on the ground, surrounded by athletic trainers, Mason had to be carefully stabilized and immediately taken to the locker room for urgent medical evaluation. Section 2, a devastating diagnosis. As the fans finally filtered out of the stadium and the players unlaced their cleats, the entire narrative of the night shifted. It was no longer about a preseason tie. It was about a potentially season-altering medical emergency for the Indianapolis coaching staff. You could feel the heavy anxiety immediately during head coach Shane Steichen's post-game press conference. He stepped up to the podium, visibly shaken, and simply said, "He's getting evaluated for his knee right now." That was it. That was all he could say. His somber tone spoke volumes. The team had to pack up their gear, get on the buses, and board a late-night flight back home to Indianapolis, completely in the dark about the severity of the damage to one of their most vital leaders. And if you follow the NFL closely, you know that the phrase "evaluated for his knee after getting rolled up on" is quite literally the most dreaded combination of words imaginable. It almost always points to significant structural damage. And unfortunately, the very next day, our worst fears were confirmed. Joel A. Erickson of the Indy Star reported the brutal factual update, and the diagnosis was nothing short of catastrophic. Brian Mason suffered multiple torn knee ligaments. Take a second and really let that sink in. Multiple torn ligaments. This wasn't a bad sprain, it wasn't a severe bruise, and it wasn't a hyperextension. This is a devastating total structural failure of the knee joint. It was caused by the violent, twisting weight of hundreds of pounds falling directly onto his leg from the side. The human knee, as incredibly engineered as it is simply not designed to withstand that kind of lateral, crushing shear force. It cemented the severe, life-altering reality of an accident that technically happened after the game clock had already hit zero. In a matter of hours, Mason's immediate future violently shifted from fine-tuning his kickoff coverage for Week 1 to preparing for major, complex reconstructive surgery and a grueling rehabilitation. Section 3, the special teams impact. Now, obviously, on a human level, this is an incredibly painful physical ordeal for Brian Mason. But if we pull back and look at the football side of this, it is a massive, immediate strategic blow to the Indianapolis Colts. Special teams in the National Football League is an absolute game of precision. It's about inches, angles, spatial awareness, and relentless, militant discipline. And the Colts just lost their maestro. Brian Mason is entering his crucial 4th season as the Colts special teams coordinator. We are not talking about some rookie coach trying to figure things out on the fly. Mason is a highly respected, established architect in this league. He built his reputation climbing the incredibly competitive college ranks at Cincinnati and Notre Dame, proving his tactical brilliance time and time again before taking the reins in Indianapolis. For the last 3 years, he has been meticulously building a specific culture, installing a complex system, and demanding a deeply ingrained standard of execution from this roster. Heading into year 4, everything was perfectly aligned for his unit to absolutely dominate the league. And if you want to know exactly why the Colts organization is reeling from this loss, you don't just have to take my word for it. Look at the hard data. The numbers from last season prove exactly how indispensable Mason is to this team's success. Under his coordination in 2025, the Colts averaged a staggering 28.8 yards per kickoff return. That was the second best mark in the entire National Football League. Think about what that actually means for a football game. That means he was consistently, week in and week out, handing his offense a massive hidden yardage advantage. He was shortening the field, making scoring drives significantly easier, and constantly flipping the momentum. And on the flip side, his coverage units were an absolute brick wall. They allowed an NFL low 6.3 yards per punt return. That is a total masterclass in lane integrity, speed matching, and open field tackling discipline. To lead the entire league in punt return defense while simultaneously being second in kickoff returns is almost unheard of. It means you possess an elite, top-tier unit capable of winning tightly contested, gritty football games entirely on their own. The mastermind behind that elite tactical production is now sidelined by a freak accident. Section 4, the sideline danger. While Mason's injury feels like an unbelievably random stroke of bad luck, if we look back at the history of the league, this rare danger is a terrifying inherent reality of the sport. The danger on the sideline is always lurking. It's just waiting for the exact wrong combination of physics, momentum, and timing. Fast forward to 2026, and Brian Mason suffers multiple torn ligaments. But let's rewind to 2011. You might remember this vividly. Legendary New Orleans Saints head coach Sean Payton was standing on the sideline during a regular season game. His own player, massive tight end Jimmy Graham, gets tackled, and his momentum carries him like a torpedo directly into Payton's leg. The result? Payton suffered a completely shattered tibia and a torn MCL. It created an absolute logistical nightmare for the Saints. Payton required surgery and was forced to physically coach games from the press box booth while heavily medicated, drastically altering how he communicated with Drew Brees and his coordinators down on the field. These aren't just minor bumps or bruises. When highly trained, massive athletes in full armor, running at top speed, collide with a stationary, unprotected human being, the human body breaks, bones snap, ligaments tear. Mason just happened to be in the wrong place at the incredibly wrong time, joining a grim fraternity of coaches who have been severely, physically maimed by the very game they oversee. So what happens right now? The coaching staff in Indianapolis is scrambling. They have to prepare for their next matchup against the Atlanta Falcons, and the regular season is staring them right in the face. But they have critical, massive, unresolved questions hanging over the facility that will define the early part of their year. Number 1, will Mason require season-ending surgery? Given the diagnosis of multiple torn ligaments, an aggressive, immediate surgical intervention is almost guaranteed. But the full medical path forward, and specifically his recovery timeline, is still being mapped out after deep evaluations back in Indy. Number 2, how is his mobility permanently affected, and how does that fundamentally change the way he coaches? If you've ever been to an NFL practice, you know special teams coaches are the high motor guys. They are constantly running, blowing the whistle, demonstrating leverage techniques, and bringing the juice. If Mason is confined to a wheelchair, a motorized cart, or forced up into a booth for the foreseeable future, that dynamic changes entirely. And finally, number 3, can senior assistant Joe Hastings step up? Hastings is Mason's right-hand man. He absolutely knows the system inside and out. He knows the personnel. But knowing the system and commanding a room of 40 to 50 grown men are two very different things. Suddenly, the immense high-pressure weight of maintaining an elite NFL special teams unit falls squarely onto his shoulders right as the real games are about to begin. Which brings us to the ultimate question moving forward. How will the Indianapolis Colts adapt to this massive leadership void just weeks before the games actually count? The loss of Brian Mason is a brutal, sobering reminder of the absolute fragility of an NFL season. You can spend months meticulously preparing, you can draft perfectly, execute training camp flawlessly, and have all your schemes locked in. And all of it can be completely upended because two players simply fought for a block a split second too long near the boundary line. The Colts have to find a way to maintain their elite special team standard, keep their competitive edge sharp, and somehow support their coordinator while he faces a grueling, incredibly painful physical recovery. This story is just beginning to unfold, and trust me, the ripple effects of this injury are going to be felt in every single phase of the game for Indianapolis this year. Thank you for diving into this deep explainer with me today. If you want to stay on top of the most intense, cinematic, and unmissable stories happening across the league, you are absolutely in the right place. Your channel is NFL Nexus. Make sure to subscribe right now, hit that like button, and drop a comment with your opinion. How do you think the Colts will overcome this massive loss on special teams? And if you want to take it a step further, support the channel by becoming a member. We will see you next time right here on the Nexus.